Everybody, welcome to my June World Cup qualifying predictions part 3, where I look at CONCACAF games that will be taking place between June 8th and June 13th. I'm going to try to keep this video shorter than the last one. So jumping right in, the CONCACAF standings right now after 4 games played each are Mexico in first with 10 points, Costa Rica in second with 7 points, Panama in third with 5 points, USA in fourth with 4 points, Honduras in fifth with 4 points, and Trinidad and Tobago in sixth with 3 points. Now, the hex is pretty straightforward. 6 teams, everyone plays each other twice, home and away. You play the other 5 teams 5 times on the road, 5 times at home, for a total of 10 games being played by each side. We have reached the 40% mark. Everyone has played 4 games now. With match day 8 under their belt, we'll have reached the halfway point in hexagonal qualifying, and then with June 13's matches, we'll have just reached beyond the halfway point with 60% of games played, 6 games each. So, looking at the table right now and looking at the games ahead, the 2 teams that have a golden opportunity here to pull away ahead of the rest of the pack by quite some margin would be Mexico and Costa Rica. Both of their upcoming qualifying games this month are at home. So if Mexico and Costa Rica were to win both of those games, they would pull ahead to 16 and 13 points respectively, and be ahead of the rest of the teams in this group by at least 8 or 9 points. In that scenario, Mexico and Costa Rica would be almost guaranteed of qualifying directly for the World Cup with 4 games to spare. And this would be the first time ever that 2 CONCACAF teams pulled away this early in World Cup qualifying. So, jumping ahead, on June 8th, we have Mexico versus Honduras, Costa Rica versus Panama, USA versus Trinidad and Tobago. Mexico's games this month are a little bit tricky to predict on the count of they are sending a strong squad to the Confederations Cup, so you kind of have to wonder what their priorities are, how they're going to balance that out. And they have the Gold Cup to worry about in a few weeks as well. So I definitely see an opportunity here for either Honduras or the United States to pick off points from Mexico on the road, although Mexico being Mexico, the best team in CONCACAF, in my opinion, the best non-South American, non-European team in the world. I think that it's going to be really tough for Honduras USA to do that, even with a Mexico B team, because Mexico, playing on them at the Azteca Stadium, is one of the most hostile atmospheres in CONCACAF that you can play in. So yeah, it's a little bit harder to predict their games here, because I don't know how Juan Carlos Osorio is going to approach the matter. But I have to give a prediction. So I think Mexico against Honduras. Honduras have not been the same as they were in 2014 World Cup qualifying. Yeah, they have Jorge Luis Pinto, who took Costa Rica to the quarterfinals back in Brazil, but they've kind of been on the downturn in recent years, and they had got off to a really poor start in qualifying. They dropped a home game against Panama, which really should have been a winnable game for them. So I think Honduras is going to be fighting it out for 3rd and 4th place. I really don't think Honduras has much of a chance to finish in the top 2 here. And I do think Mexico will beat them at home. Scoreline, I'm going to say like a 2-0 or maybe a 3-1. I see it being a 2-goal margin. So with that, Mexico would go to 13 points. Honduras would stay at 4. In the other game, I have Costa Rica against Panama. Costa Rica, arguably the second best team in CONCACAF right now, just going off of current form. This is a side that is absolutely loaded from talent. A lot of the same players from the 2014 World Cup that went to the quarterfinals. Traditionally considered one of the big 3 in CONCACAF, along with Mexico and the United States. I think their performance last year in the Copa America Centenario was not reflective of their overall quality. They did beat Colombia in that final match, But they were just in a very difficult group overall. I think that was the reason why they didn't advance. If they were in a slightly easier group, they would have had a much easier route to the quarterfinals or maybe even beyond. Um, and then the Gold Cup the year before that in 2015, they were under horrible management with Paulo Wanchope. He was an assistant under Jorge Luis Pinto, and he was just absolutely abysmal. A poor excuse of a manager. So Costa Rica, Panama, they're rivals, they're neighbors. Um, Panama will really seek to upset them here because there is a whole rivalry thing going on in the Central American hostility. But I can't bet against Costa Rica here at home. They're one of the most difficult sides to play against in CONCACAF on the road. I don't think they relinquished any points last time in qualifying at home. Or if they did, they didn't lose a single game at home. Uh, and that's really the key to qualifying for the World Cup from CONCACAF. You have to get points at home. You have to pursue wins at home, draws on the road. And Costa Rica, I don't think lost a single game at home last time around. And I don't see them doing it this time, especially against a stronger Mexican and stronger U.S. team. So I'm going to pick Costa Rica to beat Panama. And in that scenario, it would take Costa Rica to 10 points. It would keep Panama at 5. So the next game is the United States versus Trinidad and Tobago. This is an absolutely must-win for the United States here. We've already dropped enough points in the first 2 or 3 games of this qualifying season. We lost the first 2 games for the first time ever. And Bruce Arena is going to realize that we cannot fall too far behind, especially against the lowest-ranked side in this hex and the weakest team, Trinidad and Tobago. You drop points at home against them in what should be the easiest of your 10 games. That's a sign of a bigger problem going on. So this is a must-win. The United States cannot afford to even draw this game. I don't think we would be in disaster mode if we didn't win this game, but it's not like any easier fixtures are looming on the horizon. We had to play against Panama, Costa Rica, and Mexico, especially that Mexico road game, which takes place next week. So I think they'll be up for the task. I just don't see Trinidad and Tobago pulling off an upset here. We are the better team. We're very ruthless at home. We beat Honduras 6-0. And Honduras is better than Trinidad and Tobago, so I expect to get a win here. I don't know. Scoreline, I can see us winning like 3-1, maybe 3-0, 3-1. I wouldn't be surprised if Trinidad and Tobago score. In the previous game, Costa Rica, Panama, that's a one goal margin. I think that game's going to be very tight. I see Costa Rica beats Panama like 2-1, maybe 1-0. And then for U.S. Trinidad, I think we beat them 3-1 or 3-0. So that would bring the U.S. to 7 points. Trinidad and Tobago would stay at 3 points. And that would be the end of match day 5. So if these predictions come true, the standings would look like Mexico with 13 points, Costa Rica with 10 points. The USA would move up to 3rd place with 7 points. Panama would stay at 5 points. Honduras would stay at 4 points. Trinidad and Tobago would stay at 3 points. And then the next match day on match day 6 on June 12th and the 13th, we have the United States against Mexico on the road. Costa Rica against Trinidad again at home. And Panama against Honduras. And like I said, guys, wins here for Mexico and Costa Rica would skyrocket them ahead of the rest of the group. And that's never happened before in CONCACAF. And CONCACAF is usually a very tight, gritty affair. I think something's going to happen here that prevents them from pulling too far ahead. I think some of the other teams will steal points on the road. So jumping in, Mexico versus the USA. This match would take place again at the Azteca, but only a few days before Mexico kicks off in the Confederations Cup against Portugal. So, and again, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, there raises the whole question of what kind of team is Osorio going to field. And the United States being their main rivals, and the U.S. would probably go into this game realizing if they lose this, they would be a full 9 points behind Mexico, which is a massive margin in CONCACAF. I think the U.S. will probably hunker down. They'll allow Mexico to have more of the ball, which I expect Mexico to do. So I do think Mexico is going to dominate possession here, and the United States will be content with a point. and I think we're actually going to pull it off. I think we're going to get a point from this game. I was strongly leaning in favor of Mexico beating us just because at home they're the last team in CONCACAF you ever want to play against. But due to the situation of the table standings and what these games mean for the U.S., it's crunch time. So I do think the U.S. is actually going to steal a point here. And if that's the case, I think it'll be like a 1-1, maybe a 0-0. Mexico would go to 14 points then, and the United States would go to 8 points. And then Costa Rica against Trinidad and Tobago. Again, another home game for Costa Rica. I just don't see how Trinidad and Tobago gets any points here. I really don't. The gap here is just too much. Costa Rica at home against a Caribbean island team. You can't bet against Costa Rica, even to drop 2 points here. I'm going Costa Rica to get another win. I do think Costa Rica will win both of their home games this June. That would bring them to 13 points, and Trinidad and Tobago would still stay in the bottom with 3 points. That would put Trinidad and Tobago on the brink of elimination, to be honest. And then finally, we have Panama against Honduras. This is a beautiful opportunity also for Panama to pull ahead. A win here would bring them to, I think, 8 points, and that would put them a full 4 points clear of their rivals, Honduras. But Honduras lost a home game to Panama. Panama pulled out the shock upset. I don't think Honduras is going to allow themselves to go down 6 points against their neighbor. Well, not really neighbor, but because there are a few countries that are in between Panama and Honduras, but you get what I mean. Central American rivals. I think Honduras will steal a point here on the road. The only team I see this month not accumulating any points whatsoever is Trinidad and Tobago. Everyone else, I think they're going to stay in contention in this battle for the top 3 spots. I'm picking this to be a draw, Panama versus Honduras. And that would bring Panama to 6 points. That would bring Honduras up to 5 points. And those are my predictions. I think Mexico will beat Honduras at home. Costa Rica will beat Panama. USA will beat Trinidad and Tobago. Then on the next match day, I think Mexico and the United States will draw. I think Costa Rica will beat Trinidad and Tobago. And I think Panama and Honduras will draw. So if these predictions are correct, the table at the end of match day 6 would look like this. Mexico with 14 points in first place. Costa Rica right behind them in second with 13 points. And then way below them, the United States would be in third with 8 points. Panama would be right below them with 6. Honduras with 5. Trinidad and Tobago with 3. So really it will become a battle between the bottom 4 teams to fight it out for that last direct spot. I do think the U.S. will move up to third place in the table by the end of this month. And then from there, it's really looking like a battle between the U.S., Panama, and Honduras for that third place spot and for the fourth place playoff spot. Trinidad and Tobago, they wouldn't be out of it mathematically just yet, but they're not looking pretty. It's not looking good for them. So those are my predictions for this match. Some highlights. Trinidad and Tobago loses both games. Costa Rica will win both of their games. I don't think Mexico is going to win both of their home games. And I think the U.S. will be pretty satisfied by the end of this month of where they sit as far as their position is concerned on this table. They'll be on steady path to get to Russia. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for my next video where I talk about European World Cup qualifiers, which will come out tomorrow. And until then, peace out.